From 2007 to 2015, when I was living in New York City, I never had a primary care physician. I was young and there really wasn't much of a reason. If anything came up, I'd just go to an urgent care center or go to a free clinic. I just didn't see the necessity of having the consistent oversight of a doctor. However, after being a primary caregiver for my mom who had non-Hodgkin lymphoma and developing a lot of ailments from my time in that role, I decided it'd be a good idea as I was restarting my life in New York City to get a primary care physician so I could start taking care of myself. Given that I had no familiarity with any of the medical institutions in New York City, and I also hadn't even used the insurance coverage that I had gotten after I turned 26 years old and I was booted off of my parents' plan, I had to rely on ZocDoc to point me in the right direction. I stumbled upon a doctor who I'll call Dr. B, who had pretty good reviews, and I set up an initial appointment with her for October 5th, actually during when my mom and I were in Omaha, Nebraska for her month follow-up visits for her autologous stem cell transplant. I had assumed at the time that at the very least I'd be back in New York City for my birthday, which was on October 8th, so I'd for sure be able to keep that appointment even if I needed to return back to Kansas again to continue being a primary caregiver for my mom. Dr. B ended up being a very small Eastern European woman who was very cold and very straightforward. Here is part of that initial visit on October 5th, which I ended up cutting from my book, Losing Linda May, A Cancer Caregiving Memoir. She looks at the computer in the room. You are here today to talk about your frequent urination, correct? Yep. Tell me what has been going on. So I've always had to pee a lot. Well, maybe not always, but definitely in the last few years, and it's gotten way worse recently. Like I had to go 3 times during a 2-hour flight the other day. And granted, I do drink a lot of water, but the frequency just seems excessive. And I've also had a urinary tract infection before, and I feel like I might be getting another one, which could be part of the problem too. Have you recently been tested for a sexually transmitted infection? No, but I don't have any reason to be worried about that, I say definitively. Is there a burning sensation when you urinate? No. Do you often feel thirsty? Oh yeah, I carry a water bottle around with me everywhere I go. Is there a lot of sugar in your diet? Historically, yes, but I've been avoiding it more recently. Has your weight been pretty stable, or have you noticed any increases or decreases? I've lost some weight, but I was just under a lot of stress, so that might be why. Have you ever been tested for type 2 diabetes? The verbalization of the disorder speeds my heart rate. Fear widens my eyes. No? Does anyone in your family have diabetes, type 1 or 2? My grandpa had type 2, and my grandma's sister has type 1. Oh, and my cousin has type 2. Each occurrence feels like I'm getting closer to sealing my fate. You obviously aren't obese, Dr. B says, which is now the physical form most commonly associated with the disorder, but the classic symptoms of type 2 diabetes are actually weight loss, frequent urination, increased thirst, and hunger. You're experiencing 3 of the 4. For that reason and the occurrences in your family, I would like for you to get tested. Now, I say nervously. No, you'll need to go fast for 8 hours prior to having your blood drawn. I'll submit the orders and my staff will schedule you a time to come in this week. And what if it isn't diabetes? Dr. B looks at me in a way that suggests that she is certain that I have the disorder. Let's get the results back first, and then we can go from there. Naturally, the first thing I did after leaving the doctor's office was call my mom in a panic, which was actually a nice return to the norm back to the pre-cancer days when I was just her son and could freak out to her about medical things going on instead of the other way around. And here's a part of that dialogue. Logan, you don't have diabetes, Mom says confidently. I think I do, I say, pacing the southwest entrance to Central Park. It explains so much. And I mean, think about all the sugar I've consumed in my life. Up until last year, I was drinking 64 ounces of soda every day while eating candy. People do a lot worse things and they don't have diabetes. Yeah, well, clearly luck doesn't run in our family when it comes to stuff like this. You shouldn't jump to conclusions until you get the test results, Mom says, having done just that when she was experiencing the precursory symptoms prior to her cancer diagnosis. And even if you do have it, you'll be fine. Grandpa lived a pretty normal life after he got diagnosed. Oh yeah, having to prick my finger all day to test my blood sugar sounds really fun, I say. Or how Penny has to take a suitcase filled with insulin whenever she goes on a cruise. That's only when she does the month-long ones. You know what I'm trying to say. Just try not to think about it until after you find out anything official. Yeah, right. I'm a worrier just like you. No, you aren't, Mom says, likely recalling my stoicism during the course of her treatment. I am when it comes to things like this. Well, don't do anything drastic and don't start researching online until you know for sure. That'll only make things worse. I'll try not to, I say, knowing there is no way I'll be able to refrain from seeking out as much information about the disorder as possible. I'll try not to was just a bold-faced lie. The moment I got home, I started Googling First, I started by verifying what my doctor had said, that yes, the type 2 diabetes symptoms classically were the ones that I was exhibiting. That was true. So then I started grieving all the freedoms that I had had up to that point in my life when it came to food. And I started mourning the loss of all the things that I would no longer be able to consume. I was thinking about the fact that I had a Mountain Dew on my way to that appointment and how that was going to be the last soda I would ever drink. I went to the American Diabetes Association website. I've subscribed to their newsletter. I started downloading their resources. I tried to conceive what my life would be like and my diet would be like now that I had type 2 diabetes. I was fully down the rabbit hole. When I commit to something, I give it 110% always. I do not cut corners. And after having seen all the complications that came up in my grandpa's life due to his type 2 diabetes and ultimately how he passed away, I knew I did not want to have the same fate. So I just radically changed everything. On the next day, even though I didn't know if I had type 2 diabetes or not, I went out and bought all this new cooking equipment. I stocked my cabinets full of all the spices and herbs that I would need to use while cooking that I just never thought to buy because I would just eat out all the time. I would eat a ton of fast food before this. I was ready to be cooking everything that I ate in a week. I was fully committed to this new idea that I couldn't have carbs. I was just going to be eating the cleanest diet humanly possible, even though I did not know if I had type 2 diabetes or not. That's why in the moment I included for October 7th in my book, when Leah and I are having dinner at this spot called Who Kitchen, which is an amazing paleo healthy restaurant on 5th Avenue near 14th Street. And she makes this comment that it's absolutely crazy that I'm changing my entire diet the week of my birthday when you normally eat a ton of sweets and you drink a lot while you're celebrating. And I let her know that I just have to do this now. All that was in my mind was the fact that my grandpa had a triple bypass surgery and had to get his leg amputated due to complications related to his type 2 diabetes. And I didn't want that. A little bit of cake was not worth that outcome. And I know it was being really hyperbolic, but that is just how my brain works. The next day, my phone rings. It's Dr. B. I know she's going to have the test results. My fate is sealed. It happens to be my birthday. So I'm thinking, of course, I'm going to find out that I'm a type 2 diabetic on my birthday. Happy birthday to me. But I swipe to accept, and turns out I don't have type 2 diabetes. I don't have any diabetes. I am totally fine. My glucose is totally fine. So I am so relieved, of course, but because I was so scared over the course of these 3 days, which when you think about it in retrospect is such a short period of time for me to have made so many radical changes to my diet and life and just being fully prepared to live totally different than I had up to that point of my 26 years of life. But that's just how I work. And so I did decide that no, I need to be healthier. I need to actually cook. I need to use all these new things that I bought in this very short span of time when I thought I had an ailment that I didn't. So I did switch everything. I did keep on the path that I had started, not to as strict of a degree that I normally would have been if I had type 2 diabetes. And to this day, 10 years later, the last regular soda I had was the day of that initial appointment on October 5th, 2015. Since then, I have not had anything other than now I love Olipop, which doesn't have a lot of sugar and has a lot of fiber, so I give myself that little treat. This situation and me just immediately expecting the worst case scenario straight out the gate is a reflection of just being exposed to so many bad things happening to my mom over the course of her cancer treatment. When you see someone just experience so much hardship, it ingrains in your head that this is how life can work. You can just be knocked down repeatedly, and that is how I was expecting things to keep happening for our family. So of course, my mom was now in remission and was on the road to recovery, but then I would get type 2 diabetes. It just made narrative sense to me. It just shows you that when you experience trauma, it can have all these ripple effects and leach into every part of your life. And while I did end up cutting the entire type 2 diabetes scare from losing Linda May, you will read all these references to my life being so much healthier. I'm cooking all this healthy food for my parents. I'm not eating any refined sugar. All these references go unexplained, but now you know the motivation behind them. In the next video I'll be releasing on October 8th, I'll be talking about my birthday. So hit subscribe, leave any questions in the comments. The link to my book is in the description, and I will see you all then.